Our next guest on the Any Given Monday podcast has a master's and PhD in clinical exercise physiology from DCU, is the co-founder of Horology, has partnered with Irish Life Health School's fitness challenge for years, as well as partnering with them for Wellfest for the last 2 years, and is running her second marathon this Sunday in Dublin. Dr. Sarah Kelly, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Monday podcast. How are you getting on?
Good, thank you.
How many marathons have you done?
This will be my third.
I knew he got it wrong. He always messes up the intro, Sarah. You're dead right. I love it. I love when we
One pre-babies. One pre-babies.
As I said that, I was like, I have done a great job. I haven't stuttered or stammered once.
Sarah, not a week goes by where he doesn't undersell someone, make a mess of it. It's do you know what? It wouldn't be the podcast if Sean didn't make a mess of it. Sarah, you are very welcome to the Any Given Monday podcast. In the week building up to the Dublin Marathon, you have many things on your plate, but you decided to give us an hour, and we're very grateful. We need to know, before this, you said pre-babies marathon, post-babies marathon. When did you start running, and when did, I suppose, running become part of your everyday life?
I sort of fell into running, weirdly. So I would have played camogie. I'm from Castleblaney, County Monaghan. I would have played camogie and basketball at school. But you know what? I have a lot of friends who laugh when I say I played camogie for Monaghan. But I did very proudly play camogie. And so I played for schools, and then when I went to college, I played camogie and basketball for college. Then you get to that stage where I started playing Super League, and you kind of had to drop one. So like there was only time for one. So I played Super League basketball and college basketball until 2008. And then after that, I just couldn't balance everything with my PhD and whatnot. So I started, I went to the gym, but I very quickly just got bored of going to the gym. And then a friend of mine sort of dragged me along to run in Phoenix Park. I lived in Drumcondra, so I used to get up early in the morning. And I just thought this was the coolest thing ever. Run along, it's 7:30 in the morning. The deer are out. It's just such a gorgeous place. And I really kind of got into it. And it was the Great Ireland Run. I went to see a friend do that. And I was totally, the atmosphere, everything. I was like, oh my God. So that, the buzz and the hype of that run made me want to do one. And then in 2010, I ended up running the Dublin half. And then after that, I remember sitting down in DCU talking to Enda Fitzpatrick, who's the running coach. He was saying, how'd you feel? What'd you do? And I was like, yeah, grand. And towards the end, when I saw the finish line, I sort of sprinted. So I was like, my quads are sore. And he was like, you'd be fit to do the marathon. And I was like, well, and then once he sort of said it a few times, I was like, do you think so? And he took out an A4 sheet and he literally wrote out the days and told me, and it was in miles. So he wrote it out and told me exactly what to do for, I don't know, was there 5 or 6 weeks between it? And I literally followed that sheet. And I ran, in 2010, I ran my first marathon. So that's how I fell into that. And then, then there was a lot in between.
When you have that finish line feeling, because even my mom comes with me to Ironman, and she stands at the finish line and goes, oh great, I'd love to do an Ironman. She always has that feeling she'd like to do it. From that finish line feeling as a spectator, which everyone who goes to Dublin as a spectator is going to feel, it's an amazing feeling, especially if you're a runner not running. It's actually a hurtful feeling. But what was the transition from the spectator to runner? Was it difficult? Were you kind of like, it was far easier to be at the finish line watching this, or particularly when it came to your first marathon?
The first no, do you know what it was? I followed the program that he laid out a program, so he made sure I got the volume in. And even now, I'm not that I'm tentative with pace, but I'm not someone who hurts for the duration of a full race. I don't run that, I would I think I'm conservative, as in I don't want it to be up in the air whether I cross the finish line. Do you know that kind of way? Yeah. So while I push, I don't think, that's why I think it's a difference in people like me and runners, as I call them. I always kind of have something in the tank. When I see the finish line, I always have something in the tank. Whereas I think if you're running properly, you leave absolutely nothing, and you go out hard from the start and you hold that. Like even the lads today, we're talking what we're going to run. And there's 2 of us that'll probably run similar times. A similar time we stay together. And he was all the lads would have said, you go out hot. Whereas I am absolutely not someone who ever, no matter what I'm doing, I do not like going out hot. I like going out, setting my heart rate, getting, my bearings, and then sort of gradually kicking off. But no, don't like that out hot thing.
Sarah, there's another side to that as well, and that's going out hot and halfway through realize you're going out too hot. And let me tell you, because I've been there, runner is not what I call myself in the second half of a marathon when I go out too hot in the first half. Absolutely not.
There's a few choice words to call yourself, but definitely not runner anyway.
No, I can't say it on the podcast.
A real runner.
That's not me.
Sarah, taking that then, obviously managing your PhD, you did a lot of research in around sport and health and everything else. Running being a part of that, your outlet probably through the PhD. How did you find the benefits of it and through your research and what you've done for people who are, we always call it when no one gets through a marathon without niggles and all those other things. What kind of insights through study and through everything you were doing did you bring into your running life? Or are you like the rest of us and those who listen to this podcast and ignore the research and your own advice, or what way does it work? And how did you find running overall and managing the busy schedule that you had?
No, I'm not like the rest of you, I don't think, in that I trust the research. I also trust how important rest days are. I trust how important it is to take the days. I trust how important it is to practice your fueling, practice your gels, all of that. Whereas I find over the past, I only started running again post babies really in 2023. So in between babies, I joined CrossFit, and I still get so much enjoyment from CrossFit. And that was kind of all I did for a few years. And then in 2023, I joined a group from the gym who they were kind of our 6 a.m. crew. We're doing running, on Sundays, and a few of them were doing races. And we started to gradually take it more seriously. But I would spend my time, they would slag me a lot of it, if I get talking during a long run about carbs, about eating beforehand, about, running fasted, so I am in their ear the whole time. And gradually, after the 2 years or whatever, they're kind of coming around. And I'm so proud of them now, the way they all, the way they fuel, the way they take their rest days. But everyone makes mistakes, but they would have learned the hard way with marathon training. And one of the girls, she actually put herself off. She ran a marathon, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And she went out and she tried to stick with 2 people who were much faster than her. She didn't fuel properly. She didn't practice it properly. And I think she was, in the heartbreak hill, they call it, she was on the broad of her back or the side of the pavement. And she got such a sour taste. She hasn't joined us since, so we have to bring her back into it. But it really put her off, the marathons, because I don't know, you really have to go out and run your own race. Like even the guy that I would run a lot with, the 2 of us know, and there've been races where he's left me for dead. There's races where I've left him for dead. So we both accept that if someone's feeling it, the other person's not going to hold you back. You're not waiting for someone, because at the end of the day, if you have it in you to get, a couple of second PB or whatever it is, you want the other person to do that. So I think it's really important that people don't try to stick with their training partner just because they want to finish, cross over the finish line together, because that can really do you dirty.
100% agree with that. And me and Eric tried the first year. We've said many times on the podcast, it's not a good idea. One of the quotes you'd recently on one of your reels was, getting to the start line is harder than the marathon itself. Anything come to mind when you had that quote? Is it injuries, niggles, is fueling? What's the hardest part of the training?
It's niggles, I think. It's managing them. My thing, I think I said this to you before, Eric, is plantar fascia, both feet actually, but one foot in particular is kind of flaring up at the minute. And now this is one instance where I wasn't very smart. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was managing my plantar fasciitis very well. And then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went out and did a hill session. And I don't know what I was thinking. So I did.
You're one of us, Sarah. It's okay. You started out great. You've lost
it's all coming out now. It's all coming out now.
One of us. One of us.
Yeah. After that, I was like, am I after so 2 years ago, I had a little tear in my plantar fascia. So I thought that was my concern. So it's still not 100%, but I know I get through it. I know I will be fine. It's sore, but it's not, whenever it's doing damage, I know it's not going to do more damage. So it's not torn. But that has been a thing. So being kind of very, I bought 2 lacrosse balls on Amazon, and they were the best thing I ever got for my feet. And I used, whenever my foot was sore kind of before the summer, I just started rolling 3 times a day. And I actually bought 2 more because I wanted them around the house. And the kids pick them up and then they disappear. So I literally have them, hidden in all parts of the house. But that really, really helped my feet. And then the other thing, now you lied, probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went back to my physio who's a dry needler. And I was there and I was like, why am I only here like 3 weeks before the marathon? So she's amazing because I find I get tight in my quads, my hamstrings, my glutes. And after about 25K, I've seen that like it's not aerobically that I'm struggling. It's not even muscular fatigue. It's like muscular tension or tightness. And I'm like, I feel so stupid that I'm like, that's so preventable. So anyway, I went back to her and she just was shocked how tight I was. So she did some dry needling and I fit in maybe two sessions since that. And now for the next week, I'm just rolling and stretching and that's something I'm going to, do for myself because I think that'll make such a difference.
Sarah, everyone's going out now getting lacrosse balls and booking in dry needling this week. If they can't get...
It's too late.
I've even got toe spacers. I've gone completely over the other side. That's as far as I'm going with trying to fix my one. It's but it's absolutely amazing. Can we touch on, you do say it is difficult, and a lot of people kind of discredit the fact that family and managing your time and everything is a huge factor in preparing for a marathon, especially with mammies like yourself. I think it's 3 kids you have, Sarah?
3 kids, yeah.
3 kids, managing
2
a business
boys and a girl, yeah.
And training for a marathon. How do you do that without getting in trouble at home? And please, we and Sean need solutions. We need the bribes, everything you did.
Do you know what? I think I found after having my first baby, I think I realized training early, and once you're like, it's different when the baby's new and the sleep is all over the place or your feeds are all over the place. Once they were settled, I found training before the baby wakes. Now I know sometimes there's no such thing. Sometimes people's babies are up since 5 o'clock. But I found when I started training at 6 a.m., it meant that I could train and be home before. Even now I'm home and I'm waking the kids from school after I've had my session done. And even I find sometimes, depending on the morning, but we can even fit in a coffee with the gang after our morning session, which I don't know, I think that nearly fills your cup, especially now with everyone working from home. That might be the most social interaction you get for the day. So Paddy as well. Paddy would be very into training. So he was a Super League basketballer as well. And whenever he retired, like it's as important for him. So initially there was a lot of, I want that. I want to train at 6. I want to do that. So we very much, it's in the calendar. So it's a non-negotiable in our house and we both accept and totally respect the other person's need to fit in X amount of sessions per week. So I find with kids, so that they don't miss me when I'm gone, first thing in the morning. So they'll ask me, they'll know I have the headband on and I have the gear, the shorts, and they'll be like, were you in the gym this morning? And they're just getting up. But it's so normal to them now. I'm sorry, so I would have trained CrossFit. So that would have been my morning session. And then when I started running, and one thing I did to manage the running as well, like I didn't want to just become a runner and like change completely over. So I've only ever ran twice a week. So for the past 2 years, so I'm last year's marathon and this marathon, I downloaded the Run app program, the Run app, and I follow that. And it's just 2 runs a week. Because I found whenever I was trying to fit, I tried for a while to do 3 runs. And I found that if I didn't get, the way there's 2, like there's a tempo run or something else, if I didn't get one of them, then I was like, which one will I do? And it nearly caused me more distress than anything else. Whereas when I had just the 2, it was so achievable to manage that. And it has been more than enough. Like I'm not going to set any records on Sunday, but for me, at the level that I'm happy to compete or to run at, it is absolutely perfect to do it 2 days a week. And then my CrossFit strength training, dotted in around it.
Sarah, can I ask with your training? I'm hearing a few things recently now. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. There's scientific studies like they were done years and years back, but they say a lot of them apply only to men because men were done it, whereas there's a lot more newer stuff coming out on females. Is there a difference with the training and the research and stuff when it comes to women and men? I suppose particularly with running, if not strength training, or is it a lot similar?
Well, I suppose the problem is there's very little research. So even some of this, like there's not any major peer-reviewed papers coming through that are, groundbreaking or that are changing the way, the way the whole kind of landscape looks. But I think it is really important. What I've seen over the years is a lot of coaches maybe who I'm not even saying that they're young or early 20s or maybe inexperienced, but they're just treating every female like a typical 21-year-old male. Whereas there's so much more to take into consideration. And even with regard to one thing that always frustrates me is maybe people around people trying to lose weight. Sometimes people are very drastic with, now if you drastically drop your calories, 100%, you're going to see weight loss, which sometimes is the only goal that is important to the individual at that moment in time. But it would frustrate me because I suppose there's no, is she losing her menstrual cycle? Is it affecting, how she performs, her fatigue? Is she trying to get pregnant? Is she perimenopausal? Like, I suppose there's so much else that has to be taken into consideration with females and it's not a lot of trainers, it's not their fault, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But it is something I think people who are coaching females need to be more open-minded and need to realize that they aren't just small men, which a lot of people, I suppose, we've been treated as for so long. And up and only recently, women are actually being involved in studies, nutrition, health, exercise studies. And I would have even I remember for my master's, I did a study with only females. So it was older women, an older cohort, and then a younger cohort. And I remember at the time it was now again, I'm not patting myself in the back, but I don't remember anyone before that doing a research study. So we were in the School of Health and New Performance doing a study that involved women, and it went down to the hassle of recruiting. So if you're recruiting, I had to bring them in at a certain time in their menstrual cycle. So back in the day, I literally took a piece of brown paper, and in the postgrad room I think I called my period chart, and I had all their names, and I had Catherine, Mary. I was like, her period is happening here. She's bleeding here. And the boys were just thought this is hilarious. And I was like, oh, here's the period chart. So it wasn't digital at all when I think about it. My God. But so it was trickier. Yeah. But I know it's so worthwhile. But I mean, that's how unusual. It's really tricky to do it with females. So for so long they were just discarded. And what happened sometimes when there were women included, when it came to analysing the data, the women were just removed because they were throwing the results and people weren't getting the results that they kind of maybe hypothesized. So they just cut the females out, and then they analysed the data again with just the men. So a lot of work still needs to be done. Now, there is a shift of 100%, which is great because women have got really loud and I suppose they're advocating for themselves. But it still has quite a way to go.
During marathon training, obviously, we discussed how coaches are more aware. Obviously, ladies are a little bit more aware, but they mightn't necessarily have come across the information. They might not understand why they've had a bad run, and it may be just in the build up, the post, it's just where you are in the cycle. It may be nutrition, maybe you're lacking in something. How, I suppose, obviously this is where kind of your business kind of stepped in and you're doing little bits and you're raising awareness about it through other things. For women who are training and have probably had an off day and maybe they're looking at Dublin Week kind of with a lack of confidence or they're worried about it, what kind of advice, or maybe they haven't taken on the marathon, maybe they've set a ceiling at a 10K and they may be considering going longer. What advice do you give these ladies as they look to get all the advice they need and to kind of prepare themselves for training and to understand what their bodies are doing when they're training?
I think that it's really important that they work with maybe someone that is respected. So in terms of if they're following a program, and like I said, I follow the runner program, which I think I think it's deadly because it's exactly what I needed. Whenever I first signed up for my first race post babies, like I said last year, the lads were all signing up for the Clontarf half, and I said, I'm not doing this without a program. So and that was why I was like, just for the 7 weeks out, give me something. What should it look like? 2 days a week. And I followed that. But I would be, I suppose, with my experience, I knew at different times, over the years, the runner program has thrown up some bizarre cases at me, throwing up some bizarre, it's treating me like a runner. And I'm just that is not for me,
We're going to have to coin that phrase.
Yes, but it's not that could rattle you, I think, or I suppose I understand that's kind of a blip with the app. I presume the app is using AI or something. So it's just a blip and it's missing that human touch. So maybe if you are finding, the programs like that or run a program is kind of, it's putting you on or putting you on a program that is too advanced for you and it's knocking your confidence over anything else, it might be advisable to look for someone in like an actual person, a proper coach. I do think it is like, if you can get someone who understands marathon training and I suppose understands where you're at. Like I said, more than likely you're not, you don't want to just set a world record or an Irish record. You want to go out and compete it, feel comfortable, that it doesn't take over your life. And I think that's a huge part. What I find with women is the nutrition side. So women historically, not all women, but a lot of women have this thing about, I think people think when you start running, you're going to lose weight. But if you're fueling properly, which you absolutely should be, you don't really lose weight. You should I don't think you should. If you're fueling properly, if you're loading the way you should, if you're taking on your carbs, you absolutely, the weight shouldn't be falling off you at all. And I think people who feel exhausted or run training absolutely destroys them. I think it's because they're under fueling for what they're doing. So I think for women especially, it's really important. Like if they're struggling to understand it themselves, seek out someone that understands. Like, and even for me, the carb loading the few days before, even sometimes how hard can it be? It's really hard. Like it really is hard. And it's hard. I have found like for my 32K and for my 27K, I find it was getting to 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm like, I still have 200 or 300 calories more to go. And that's where, so there's Alana Kelly Nutrition. She has an amazing spreadsheet and she's kind of like, you put in what you're eating, but she kept, will you plan it? Where I was like, no, I sort of would put it in at 6 o'clock thinking that I was nearly done and populate it then. And without fail. So literally yesterday, because we did a 13K today, and I said, I'm going to practice the foods that I'll eat, say, next Saturday. And the difference when I front loaded early in the morning, and I knew everything that I had to get in. So by the time it got to 6 o'clock, I nearly had all the carbs in that I needed. So I felt so much more comfortable going to bed, so much more comfortable this morning. Whereas previously I would have felt bloated and uncomfortable, and you're nearly taking it in kind of because you think you have to, which is not, I don't think that's a good idea either.
Sarah, for you, when will the carb loading start this week?
I think I will, say 2 days out would be where I'll properly, like I said, I use that kind of, I calculate it and make sure that I hit what I'm supposed to hit. And then 3 days out, I would be conscious to make sure, I won't be eating salad, I'd consciously eat. But the rest of the week, I just eat as normal. Yeah. And something as well, I think is really important. And I presume people know this, but it still shocks me. And it shocks me this week, actually, because there's lots of people are posting that they're fueling for their long run tomorrow. And they're posting something that is really cheesy or really greasy or breaded chicken covered with melted cheese. And then there's a few chips underneath. And I'm like, how are people not realize that this did? I know, but people think it's so exciting being able to carb load, but carb loading is not what you think it is. It's not your big Domino's pizza. It's not your Chinese. It's the boring foods that your body can digest really easily so that they're out of your system before you head out on your run the next day. Whereas I have a friend who would have had a couple experiences where he made the mistake with the big pizza the night before. He made I think it was Chinese or dumplings or something another day. But it was still in his stomach during that long run, and anyway, we'll not go into detail.
We can see where that's going.
Sean is looking at me, but your friend is a man of great taste.
I was waiting to see you comment that one, Eric.
And there's a slight delay, so I can't get the jokes in edgeways. But Sarah, what would be, so people are probably picking up this episode, what would be your top tips instead of chips? And what do you think people should be using or little tricks that you can put in place this week? Because like myself and Sean have gone to an expo and walked away with beetroot juice the night before, and we've tried every fad there is at an expo. Yeah. But what do you recommend that people start to focus on, and the little tips and tricks they can use this week?
One thing I would say is don't try anything that you haven't tried before. So even as you say, if you're at the expo and someone says, oh my God, this is amazing, or if it's a pre-workout or don't try, it's so dangerous to do that. And even your gels and everything, don't be out there and oh, that's a tropical flavor, I'm going to try that gel. Stick to what you know works for you and play it completely safe. And with regard to food, it's keeping it really simple. So I find things like rice and I'm not a massive fan of pasta. I find you have to eat an awful lot of it. I'd nearly rather rice than pasta. I think I'm traumatized from intervarsities years ago where we'd like 5 or 6 matches a day and you're eating pasta at 11 o'clock in the morning, just plain pasta. So I went up for rice. And again, sometimes you need the people kind of, jellies or Haribo or things like that. There's certain jellies that absolutely would sicken me. I don't know if it's the gelatin in them or what it is. So again, if you haven't tried that before, don't just horse in a load of Haribo at 8 o'clock at night because you have to get 200 grams of carbs into you. So I would, So at this stage, the hard work is done. I think trust the process, trust that you, even training wise, don't be, if you feel a bit like you had a bad run today, or like, I don't know if anyone, Dublin, I did the weather today was absolutely horrific. We'd go out. Were you running today, Sean?
I didn't run yesterday. I was cursing every step. Everyone that ran Saturday, I was like, I wish I got this done yesterday morning instead of doing a class.
It was a real confidence knocker as well. It was one of those runs. Yeah.
And because there was so much rain, you just felt heavy going through it and sluggish. And, it wasn't
your
nice.
Shoes, everything was horrible. And it was windy and it is the sort of run that could be like, oh geez, I don't feel fit. You feel like you've lost your fitness in a couple of days.
Yep.
So I would say to people not to panic this week. Don't try and do anything to take it very easy this week. If you planned maybe 1 or 2 light runs or whatever it is that you do, your shakeout runs, but don't try and do anything major this week. And with the food thing, I think the big thing is do not try anything that you haven't tried before. That's so important. And rest.
Sarah, I do want to talk about horology and stuff like that, but just one last thing on the fueling and pre-fueling. One of your posts, you had a pre-run. I think you were having a bagel with jam and stuff, but you also had horology, balance, and collagen with Perform Creatine. I got our own plug in there as well. Creatine first. Why is that so important for runners? And then can you talk a little bit? I'm hearing a lot about collagen stuff lately. What is that, and why is that important for running a pre-fueling?
Well, creatine, their evidence on creatine is really strong at the moment. And as I think the big line about creatine in terms of its safety and whether people should be taking it is one of the most tested supplements that there is. So I think anyone who's trying to push in their performance, it definitely is something from an energy perspective, even if we would love it in CrossFit as well. So if you're lifting heavy weights and you're trying to go hard, it just gives you that little bit extra. And there's loads of evidence coming out as well. And it's really interesting to watch with regards to cognitive benefits. So that you'll see there's a big push for perimenopausal women as well, where they're pushing towards it. There's stuff coming out in bone health, but that is a space we're watching really, really closely. But no, look, it's definitely, I think traditionally, there used to be young lads who were looking to do it, and they're, people, it was all associated with rugby players and people who were really big and muscly, but it absolutely is a very safe supplement to take. And creatine monohydrate is the one that is the creatine to look out. There's loads of different types, but that's the one that and powder is the best form. Yeah.
And then,
you're talking. Yeah, so again, Horology, Michelle and I, we both did our PhDs in DCU, and that's where we kind of came together to set up Horology. So we have formulated a range of supplements specifically for females across the lifespan. So it's supposed to support them at the different stages of their life. So whether it's through their menstruating years, fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, or perimenopause and beyond. And we have a product, Balance, and that's the product we actually set out to formulate. And then we realized if we added a few extra herbs, it would really help with perimenopause symptoms. So that's kind of Balance and Meno are our 2 core multi-nutrients. So it's whether you have symptoms or not. But collagen is a product that we launched just earlier this year. So we have 5,000 milligrams of Verisol marine collagen. So we went with Verisol. Now it's a more expensive one for us to manufacture, but it was really important for us that it had clinical trials behind it. So the clinical trials have shown that the Verisol collagen improves the health of hair, skin, and nails. So that's now there is lots of stuff with collagen and joints and bones, and we anecdotally get a lot of feedback on that. So a lot of people do take it for that. But for us, the clinical trials on Verisol have been limited to hair, skin, and nails.
How much does it help with hair? Just out of curiosity.
You could have saved me a fortune on a hair transplant, Sarah. You could have saved me a fortune on a hair transplant.
There's a limit with everything, guys. There's a limit with everything.
Oh, that is absolutely brilliant. Sarah, how important is it for ladies to supplement and in a right way through various stages of their lives and what they're doing?
Well, I suppose the first thing I would say, and it's what any healthcare professional say, diet first is obviously the most important thing. And making sure, you're eating a very varied diet, high in fiber, high in protein. But the way we live our lives, sometimes it is very hard. Like I would probably be mortified if someone saw, a general week in terms of the way I eat. And it purely goes down to rushing, convenience, trying to feed the kids. When they come in from school, they have their GA could start at 5 o'clock to play basketball as well. Sometimes they double sessions. Sometimes they're playing up. It literally is in the house, out of the house, in the house, out of the house, dropping them here, there, and everywhere. So it is quite hard to eat everything that you're supposed to eat. So I would even find that I would use whey protein as well. And it's probably the only way that I can ensure that I'm getting adequate protein into my day. And then with regard to our products as well, you don't have to be deficient in something as well to have a therapeutic benefit. So there is a lot of information, like you don't need to supplement if you're not deficient. And I understand where that's coming from and all of that. But what we would find, the feedback that we get with Balance has been absolutely phenomenal. So we created it to help women, again, first off with their mood and their energy levels, which you would notice within a couple of days. And it's when women stop taking it that they come back and I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize how much it was doing for me. But it has been absolutely transformative for people who struggle with PMS. And it has been one of those things, it's a product that we keep selling out of. So we're trying to stay on top of it and we kind of keep it for our subscribers. But it sells out and has sold out a good few times since we launched. But it is something that you feel really bad. You have women in your DMs or women in emails that are basically, and you're even a box in your house. I'll come and get it that they are. And you feel so bad because it is, and that's why we're so strict about keeping it for our subscribers, because we know the difference that it is genuinely making to so many females. So it's really important for us. So and then, like I said, Meno and Balance are our core multi-nutrients. And then collagen is a luxury. Again, we obviously all take it, but it's not, if someone, when people come up to us, say, which product, and I'm like, this is the one that will change your life. Like having nicer hair, skin and nails. I mean, it's great, but it's not something that will change your life. Whereas Balance and Meno, absolutely transformative.
So Sarah, when I open the boot of my car and I've found a shipment of Balance and I'm selling it on the market to those who haven't subscribed, now I joke, but what are the core, what are you balancing? And I'm saying it from a little bit of ignorance of not really understanding what it is that ladies are lacking. What is what you're trying to achieve? What is the balance you are trying to achieve?
Well, it's funny, you ask what we're balancing. We actually don't like the term, and any medical profession doesn't like the term balancing hormones, because hormones are supposed to fluctuate. So to say, you have a hormone imbalance, actually, it's medically incorrect. But balance, I suppose, is you're bringing balance to their life, to their mood, to their energy. And for us, whenever we were creating these, so Michelle Home is, she's the girl that I've set up Horology with. So she has a nutrition clinic for the 10 years previous to this. So she had worked with thousands of women and I suppose what she had discovered is there's certain ingredients or certain minerals and vitamins and herbs that have a profound impact and make a huge difference to women and various symptoms. But what she found is she had to, pull this ingredient from there, this ingredient from there. And it was all what happened was it was the brands that you'd never have heard of, but they were the ones to get the highest quality in the most bioavailable form. She had to pull them from several different places. And then she had, clients rattling around with all the supplements. They had a whole press that was just full of it. People didn't really get what they were taking. So I suppose our goal was, we were like, why can we not put everything in a single sachet? And we had this idea and we decided we were going to see if we could do it. So we sourced an Irish manufacturer who came, they're globally recognized, they were highly recommended. So we went to them with our formulations and we had 3 at launch. We had Balance and Meno, and then we have Zen, which is a real simple magnesium based and the relaxing bees that you can take before sleep, because menno imbalance with the bees, they're very energizing. So we tell people to take them in the morning. But we went with these 3 formulations, and what we found is to get the form that we wanted in the dose that we wanted, we actually had to fight. So we had to do the whole, okay, that's a deal breaker. We're going to have to go somewhere else, because there was kind of a push towards using, when I suppose the simple thing is, it was a cheaper version of the ingredient. And I get from a manufacturing perspective why that would be something that they would want to kind of strong arm us towards. But we both were we hadn't launched or hadn't even really got to that stage. So we were like, both of us, we're not salespeople. So we've science backgrounds. Neither of us would be able to look people in the eye and be like, yeah, this is going to work, when we knew that it wouldn't. So we said basically that was a deal breaker, and we're going to go elsewhere to see. And we thought we might have to leave the country. And then they said, no, leave it with us. And long story short, after a couple of weeks, they had to basically go source different suppliers. And then we were eventually able to get our dream product. So that's kind of where it came about. And yes, we've been working with them ever since. And it's phenomenal having an Irish manufacturer. They're at the end of the phone. They were in a WhatsApp group with them. We can go down there. We can, whenever our product's on the line, we can see everything. So from the very start to the end, when it's being shipped out to our customers, we are hands-on with all of that, which is amazing. And you couldn't do that if it was outside the country.
You guys are more than just the supplements, though. You have a horology specialist hub where you've got a load of different people together and stuff. What exactly is that?
Yeah, well, I suppose for Michelle and I, we came together because we were both very passionate about female health. And for us, Horology is so much more than just a supplement brand. So the research hub that we have on our website is basically where we have brought together a diverse range of perspectives of healthcare professionals who work in female health. And on Wednesday last, we actually hosted our first Horology Hub Live. And that's where we invited 60 healthcare professionals in the female health space. That was GPs, pharmacists, pelvic health physiotherapists, nutritionists, dietitians. We had them all in the one venue on Wednesday. And we had basically, it was kind of a day to learn, to connect, and for them to network and kind of make connections with each other. And I suppose spark discussions. And the idea is we wanted this to kind of shape maybe future research, clinical practice, and I suppose the way in which we support women's health in Ireland. So we had 2 panel discussions. So one focused, I suppose, on younger females around, issues with endometriosis, PCOS, PMS, PMDD. And then in the afternoon, we had a menopause discussion as well that covered everything from, I suppose, HRT to more holistic approach. And it was phenomenal. So it was brilliant. So that was kind of the first step. But for us, it's kind of where we went. Like I said, like our supplements, we're very proud of them. But Wednesday was very special. We were really pleased with how that went.
With so many professionals getting involved like this, is it a good sign for the perspective or the psyche shift in Ireland, or maybe across the world, into women's health and the awareness that you're trying to raise? And obviously, guest speaker days like this are really, really important to that. And more importantly, that ladies are getting the information from good sources.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And on the day, I suppose the resounding feedback was that everyone, so your really diverse perspectives were there. You had your GPs, very medical based, very evidence based. Like if it's, you know what I mean, they can not that they clash, but they can, we had herbalists there, naturopaths there. They come from different backgrounds, different training, but the level of respect and appreciation for each other was phenomenal, because everyone appreciated that everyone in that room is there to improve female health in Ireland and to help women. So I think seeing that shift, and it was a great indication of the way things are moving in Ireland.
The complete opposite of an Instagram comment section.
Yes.
Sarah, before we move back on to the week that is the Dublin Marathon week, and we talk about the comment section, what are one of the things that you will see on an Instagram story, a TikTok, a reel, and you're like, if I see this one more time, telling women that it's this, is there anything out there that really gets on your nerves that you're like, if I had a fantastic podcast where I could set the record straight, what would you tell us?
God. You should have prepped me for this question. That's a good one. There's probably loads, but off the top of my head, I'm trying to think things that frustrate me. Do you know what? Things probably don't. First of all, my algorithm is probably curated that I don't see as much nonsense, because sometimes people tell me stuff. Oh, this guy was saying on Instagram, and I'm like, no, absolutely not. So I think I'm probably shielded from a lot of it in that sense. There is a whole thing with when you're a female, when you're a mom, when you're trying to exercise and stay fit, when you're trying to run a business, this whole thing about, there's no excuse, if I can do it with a baby, or if I can do it, you can do it. Everyone's situation is completely different. So I don't like that messaging, because I don't think it is. I think the idea is to be motivational, but I don't think it's motivational for someone maybe who doesn't have the support system in place, who is drowning in, whatever their work and trying to manage their kids. They may have a really stressful job. They may have babies who don't sleep, whatever it is. And also, everyone has a different tolerance for stress. So just because you look at someone else's life and they're like, how is she struggling? Like, that's absolutely relevant. Everyone's tolerance and ability to cope is completely different. And I know, like, sometimes people say, oh, you're doing this and you're running a business and you have 3 kids and you're running a marathon. But I have a husband who, like, when I come in, I think at 5 o'clock, I'm thinking, oh, what's for dinner? Whereas Paddy is a person who, on the night before, he's defrosting the chicken out of the freezer. Do you know that kind of way?
Yep.
I'm not that person. Like, when I want to eat, I'm like, okay, what am I going to eat now? Whereas he plans ahead, and I know I am incredibly lucky to have married someone who thinks like that. And so he honestly is absolutely amazing. So I'm not sure where I would be if I married someone else.
Paddy's going to be listening to this with a smile on his face, defrosting the mince
he
now on a Monday morning.
He knows I would be in trouble. He knows I would be in trouble if it wasn't for him.
Sarah, to bring it back to this week, and we have touched on the cycles, ladies. Some ladies may have figured out that this week is not going to be a good time for them. What kind of fear will that invoke in women? And again, I'm asking from a learning perspective, because when I look at Marathon Week, I just go gels, Chinese the night before, hamburger. I go through my regular routine. Yeah. But for women who may not have, or maybe taken on the first marathon and the schedule is not really suiting, what calming advice can you give to them? And obviously it happens so many. When we look at the thousands that will do it, percentages say there's a good portion that are at that time in their cycle. What advice do you have for those ladies this week?
Well, would you believe I figured out since I was making the boys really uncomfortable with coffee this morning. I was like, my period is due on Sunday. So it's lined up. Yeah, I know. And I'm sort of willing it to come early. The female body is amazing. You'd be surprised. But no, look at the one thing that I was chatting to someone the other day, and they were actually commenting on Irish Life Health and how they're so involved in this. And they're doing things like, there's obviously, you get the cash back on your entry fee. But one of the really cool things to support females who are running the marathon is they have period packs. So, for example, if someone is in a situation where they get to the start line and they're not due their period, but the stress or the nerves or whatever it is, the maddest things can happen. So if they realize that they are getting their period or they're not prepared, or if they are prepared, but they need, like, they don't want to maybe carry tampons or whatever with them, there's period packs available from Irish Life Health, which I think is a really cool thing. And I haven't heard anyone shouting about that before. So I think they're at the first aid station in particular and at the start line, I think, perhaps. But it's something that I would recommend women maybe to look up. So if you're conscious that might be you, maybe get it, look up the Irish Life Health website and figure out exactly where they are going to be. But I think that's a really cool thing. There's other stuff. Irish Life Health are doing really cool things in the female health space. One of the things that, and again, I'm really passionate about, because I think I was pregnant with my second baby before I realized that pelvic health physiotherapy was or pelvic floor, like, therapy was an actual thing. I was like, hold on a second. Like, I have a PhD in exercise physiology, and I didn't realize all of this stuff around pelvic floor and around pregnancy, and not even around pregnancy in general, looking after your pelvic floor as a female. And they have now, I think they are the very first Irish insurance provider to cover a pelvic health physiotherapist consultation, which I think, regardless of pre-babies, postpartum, I think every female, it's something that they should do. Because I know lots of girls who would find that they're actually sometimes people think it's a weakness of a pelvic floor, but very often people who are really fit and really toned and tight and everything, very often they have a hypertonic pelvic floor, which means that it's too tight. So I think it's something really important for women to go and get assessed and see where you are. And what I found is every time I went to a pelvic health physiotherapist, I found I learned something that I literally went out and I spread it to all of my female friends. So every single time I went, it nearly reiterated the importance of looking after it. And it's not even, you mightn't have any symptoms now, but if you don't look after your pelvic floor at this stage in life, when you hit perimenopause, that's when you could have symptoms that whether it's leaking or whatever it is. So it's really important. So I think that's a really cool thing that Irish Life Health have done.
Was there any contradictions in that what you're doing at the time in CrossFit and CrossFit competitions? We were like, based on what I heard there, I need to do this instead.
Massively. So there's a huge, how would you describe it? So whenever I was pregnant on my third baby, I was in CrossFit and someone said to me, "Oh, see that girl over there? She's a pelvic health physio." I said, "What?" So I literally, we were doing
Like a
something on the
unicorn.
ground. I swear to God, I scooched over on the ground and I was like, "You have a physiotherapist?" And we've become such good friends now. Her name is Helen Keeble and she is phenomenal. But I had a few, so of course we did the session, but I nailed her afterwards and we talked for about 30 minutes. And the amount of information I got in that conversation. And there is, I mean, again, when you say about CrossFit competitions and max lifting and wearing belts, holding breath and bearing down, all of those things. So there's a time and a place. She said, look, if you're trying to lift above 95% for a competition or for a max lift, do you know what I mean? Well, wearing the belt at that point, but it's wearing the belt, all the time, like down at 70% of your max. She was like, you don't need to be doing that. And it did massively change my perspective and how I train. But what she did say, which I thought was phenomenal, because I was like, why is no one aware of this? And what she said is the research, it takes about 20 years. And I was like, I thought she was exaggerating, but 20 years for the research to make it to the gym floor. Now, I know herself and Helen Keeble and Emma Dowling are doing a series actually on Instagram at the moment, which is really cool. And it's kind of busting myths around pregnancy and things like that, because Helen I'd say she literally is due in the next 2 weeks. So it was a perfect time to do that. But Helen is very much on top of the research that's coming out. With the gym floor, they're years behind. And it's not their fault either, because it's just one of those things. Yeah, it really did change my whole perspective on how I train. And also, the whole kipping pull-ups and even everything that you think, I can still do it. I was very aware. Helen taught me how to study my abs. And there's a thing called, and again, sorry if this is boring for you.
No, definitely not.
No, this is unreal.
There's a thing called coning or doming.
Yes.
So basically when you look, so I remember I was still able to do kipping pull-ups and things like that up until a certain point. And I remember then I think I was doing something where I wasn't going upside down, but I was doing I did an adaptation of a handstand push up off a box. So my knees were on a box, if you can imagine. And I just remember looking down at through my arms at my abs. So I wasn't able to, it's basically controlling your intra-abdominal pressure. I wasn't able to do it at that point. And literally my abs went like a TP, like that the whole way down. So you need to doing that. Now, again, you can come back from it, but that's something to manage. So if you're coning or doming, Helen taught me, she was like, stop, reset, take your breath, contract your pelvic floor and try again. But there will come a time in the pregnancy where you're just not able to manage that load. And that's when you have to pare it back. Because everyone wants to know, what can I do and what can't I do? And again, like everything, everyone is individual. But it's following people like Helen Keeble or people who understand that space is really important, I think, for that information.
Bringing it back to the excitement for this Sunday, for your own run again, and for all the ladies out there, is there any nervousness? Are you happy that the training is done? I know you mentioned already that you keep some in the tank, but Dublin Marathon is always a special event. It always brings such a good crowd, such good excitement. Let's hope it's sunny this time instead of the long runs for the past few weeks. How are your feelings towards this Sunday?
I will. Do you know what? I remember last year, I kind of choose to only speak excited, like that I speak excitedly about it and positively. And last year, like anyone who asked me, how you feel? And I was like, can't wait. And I honestly, not to sound foolish, but like, I honestly think it transforms. I kept saying that anyone who asked me how you feel, can't wait. And then I was like, I can't wait. Like it genuinely I was so excited for the buzz of it. Do you know the only thing, if you could just remove the stress of getting to the toilet before and the portaloos. If you could remove that, I swear to God, if you could carry your own little toilet with you, if you could remove that, there is not one thing that would scare me or, that I'd have fear about going towards the marathon. So if you can control that, I'm so excited. You're doing it with friends. There's such a buzz, the crack afterwards. Like, I just think everything about it is magic.
I shouldn't say in the podcast, but guys have a bit of advantage on that before the start of the race.
You do. You 100%.
Yes. Where to go.
Yes.
And you shouldn't, but so many. If it's your first marathon coming up, you'll see it. So many do. I do feel bad then you see the queues and stuff. I will say the further on you go towards the start line, the more chance you have of a smaller queue. And I was like, how far do you keep going to decide the queue from there?
No, you're right, because last year when we got the other way, you have to go around the corners and whatever, and we were like, oh my God, if we had just waited, and it's perfect. So that is probably something that I would consider this year. But it is bizarre. You're speaking with that, lads. We did the Nice half marathon. We did it for the crack. Like a gang of us went. The gym crew went, and I swear to God, I never seen if there was footage of it released, it would go viral for the wrong reasons. The men all lined up in the sea. It was like on the seafront. I swear, I never saw anything like it. It was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. Now, like absolute idiots, we all ended up in the sea then later.
Yes.
Like we forgot. Swim. But yeah, pretty nasty.
Sarah, one thing is the day itself, and we've touched on, and probably one thing we don't talk about is the come down after a marathon and the very valuable rest you spoke about, and then the losing fitness after 2 days and all the fears people have. What is a very important protocol for men and women as they cross the finish line and maybe look for new goals, maybe look to recover, maybe they've carried niggles? What's your best advice for people post-marathon and how they should recover and how they should, I suppose, get themselves ready for their next challenge or their next adventure?
I mean, the correct thing to say is if you, replenish your carbohydrates and your protein. But I know at the end of the marathon, that is, do you know what? It's like, it's been such a build up and all of that. Now, absolutely eat, because I'd say if you have a pint on an empty stomach, you'd be in trouble. But I wouldn't panic about trying to eat perfect, nutrition after and enjoy yourself. Go have your burger and chips or whatever you want. Well, you said there is that thing about panicking, like you've lost your fitness, and that's not going to happen. But I would give yourself, that even that week, you may or may not want to go out for a little light jog. But if you do go out, do not put yourself under pressure. Do not go out and go, oh my God, I've lost it. Do like a little kind of recovery run before the end of the week, if you would, but do not put yourself under pressure. The muscle soreness is on another level. Well, I find it is. Some people seem to be different, but the muscle soreness for me after, and that could be because I'm still sprinting at the 8. It's no, I'm obviously not sprinting, but no, I definitely would find the DOMs are debilitating for a couple of days, so I wouldn't really be worried about it. And there is nothing really you can do, not massively, so I just kind of lean into it and limp around the place for the few days. But we have to, the gang of us that we're all ended up signing up for the High Rocks, which is 2.5 weeks later, the Dublin High Rocks. So
yes,
that I would not recommend that. I sort of regret that now, but I've signed up with my husband, so I sort of feel I need to do it. But anyway, we'll see how I feel after it.
How's the CrossFitter feel about doing High Rocks?
Me?
Yeah.
You know what? High Rock, I don't massively enjoy. I don't enjoy the training of High Rocks. It's quite, I know it's the same thing. It's the same. And even the ergs or whatever. But I'm one of those people, in terms of CrossFit, I'm kind of like a bang average. I'm not incredibly strong. I'm not fast. But I'm kind of can do the movements kind of whatever equally well. So the High Rocks it suits my type of fitness and better. I'm probably more aerobic. So the weights aren't, now we're doing pro, but compared to what we probably move in CrossFit, the weights aren't that heavy. So it's more an aerobic thing, and it probably, like if I was, which I would be better at, I'm probably better at high rocks. So I'm not great at high rocks. I'm not great at high rocks at all, but it probably suits me better than, that long kind of 40, or
Yeah.
not even 40 minutes, sorry. But whenever we do the sessions in the gym, they're usually about 40 minutes, kind of like a sweat session. And yeah, that doesn't bother me. That kind of sustained heart rate for that extended period of time, it probably suits me better.
Sounds like an expert recovery plan for you, Sarah.
And Sarah, best of luck this Sunday with Martin. Best of luck with High Rocks and everything
Thank
else
you.
from there, and enjoy the recovery afterwards. And after the High Rocks, just don't jump at any nearby seas, just in case.
No. Absolutely not.
With that said,
Yeah.
that's this week's episode of the Any Given Monday podcast of myself, Sarah, and Eric. Take care.